Oregon and Wisconsin. Joe, Oregon goes into the Midwest, goes into Wisconsin, and is able to hold on here, 16-13. Your thoughts on Oregon being able to hold on against Wisconsin? Oh, wait. I just forgot something.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, on Monday last week, or this past week, you and I broke down Oregon and Wisconsin, did we not?
Yes, we previewed it, and we did it very accurately.
And it's interesting. Your boy got a little bit of pushback. Oregon fans did not like me thinking or saying that Wisconsin's secondary wasn't good. But you know what? The game played out that way. Hit it. Joe, there's one thing in this game that I'm going to be interested to see. That Wisconsin secondary has been very sticky. They're sixth in the country in pass defense. I know it's the Big Ten, but it's not like, look, man, Wisconsin gave Bama problems. So I look at that and say, Joe, as we come back into this one, your thoughts on what you saw between Oregon and Wisconsin?
One of the statements on Oregon that I have repeated constantly throughout this year is that Oregon is the most balanced team in college football right now. What balance means is not that they're just going to come out and dominate every single opponent they're going to play. It means that when you have a matchup against a team and one side of the football is not playing to its potential, and in this game, the offense was not clicking the way that we know that it can. Their offensive line didn't play as good. Receivers were not getting open as consistently as possible. There were a number of coverage sacks, and just in general, DeLeone Gabriel, not as sharp as we've seen him with that one bad interception that he had in the red zone. And again, those number of sacks that he took. But Oregon needed to call on their defense to win them the football game. Late in the game, throughout the entirety of it, their defensive line made huge plays. Mateo Uiagalelei needs to be talked about more as a budding star and a potential first-round pick along this defensive line. The guy did everything. Sacks, tackles for loss, had a freaking interception at the end of the game. Mateo Uiagalelei is fantastic among a group of defensive linemen that have killed opposing offensive lines. So I come back to this, and to say what I'm saying here, Oregon's balance helped them win this football game, and it's going to continue to help them. We see it in different degrees against different opponents, and their ability to lean on one side of the football 1,000% helped them.
You're right. Wisconsin got pressure on DeLeone Gabriel 13 times. Now, Gabriel, Joe, at the end of the game, did have a very crucial run that's pretty much, from a time aspect, somewhat sealed it. But he was under pressure a lot. 13 times is a lot. He only got sacked twice, though. So 11 times he either threw it or got away from it and was able to make a play. I agree with you. He wasn't sharp. Well, he wasn't sharp because, number one, these were coverage sacks. So or coverage pressures, I should say. So when I look at this game, I just go back to exactly what we talked about in the preview. Joe, this Wisconsin secondary is pretty good. I'm just going to be real with you. Like, Joe, now they're going to be in the top 3 in passing yards allowed per game this week. You faced a really good secondary. What they do on their back end, the way they communicate, the way they play man, they shift off, they do a lot of different things. Joe, they're one of the best teams in the Big Ten that I've seen, or really just in college football that I've seen. There are a lot of times that they show you something, and at the snap, when you're in your drop, they're in something completely different. And one thing that I think that Fickell does not get a lot of credit about, Joe, do we remember Sauce Gardner and the boys at Cincinnati, right? Like, they did the same type of stuff that you're seeing now Wisconsin do. They don't have the dudes up front yet, okay, to establish and be good enough to do what it is that they need to do. Now, Wisconsin fired Phil Longo today. But I kind of felt in the beginning of the week that there was going to be a situation where, hey, man, you're going into a very cold environment on the road. You might have to go out here and pound the football a little bit, okay? Are you willing to do it to win a football game? Now, Joe, offensively, this is how their series went. They started off with a punt, an interception in the red zone that DeLeone Gabriel was the only pick that he had, a field goal. Wait. I have 2 interceptions here. He didn't throw 2.
Yeah, he only had 1. He only had that one early on in the game.
Field goal, punt, end of half, punt, TD. When they needed to line up and run the football, here's the truth. Against Wisconsin, they couldn't do it. Now, you look at, when you look at James's stats, you'll say, well, Blake, he had 121 yards and a touchdown. Well, I'm actually looking at third down because you were 5 for 15 on third down. And when you got into the second half, you tried to run the football in these short yardage situations and you couldn't. So I look at offensively, yes, you're right. They did have issues. But I'm going to use the line that you tell me all the time. You ready? I'm going to take your advice. Good teams find ways to win on the road. And it's no different for Oregon. We see a lot of teams that, look, man, you're going to have games like this. You're going to be met with adversity. We talked about, Joe, you literally led off this segment with it on Monday. When did they get tested? And so this was the week that Oregon got tested. And you know what, man? The number one team in the country found a way to win, and it was what you talked about to start off. Defense, man, they kept just getting after Locke. Joe, they could not run the football effectively in big moments either. Walker did have 97 yards, but, man, they got pressure. They made big conversions. Wisconsin was 1 for 12 on third down, okay? The defensive gurus galore. Just watch what Dan Lanning did with Oregon. So, tough game, tough environment. Beat up. That's what I felt like I was watching too, Joe. An Oregon team that looked beat up, okay, and they met a physical football team. They got some injuries. Now they go into a bye week. It's been a while since Oregon's had a bye. So you get a bye week, you have Washington, and then you have the Big Ten title game. Joe, the bye is really nicely placed here too. So, again, I felt like a team. I felt like even with some injuries, just as a team, I felt they looked a little beat up, but they were able to find a way to win.
Yeah, so you just brought up there the kind of like my final takeaway from this is that you're escaping a difficult situation. You're on the road and you have this long streak of games where you're not afforded much of a break. I forget when their last bye week was.
Early October.
No, it was in September. It was week 4, if I'm looking at this correctly, because they played a game.
The last week of September.
They played a game on the 14th, and then they played a game on the 28th. So they instead of playing a game on the 21st, that was how long that they went without getting a break.
How many games did they have from bye to bye?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 games. 8 games in between then. So for you, right? So to what I was going to say is that for you to get through that stretch and to get to this final point where you have to go on the road, that's a really difficult situation. I'm not trying to crown this as some situation where Oregon stepped in and they've set themselves up to win a national championship because they beat Wisconsin. I'm not going to go that far. I think that would be a heinous level of glazing if I were trying to make a take happen like that. But to overcome that, on the road, your offense isn't playing as good as it could. You lean in a certain direction. It helps you win the football game. You get the bye week. You're playing up against your rival, Washington, in 2 weeks. You get a week to prepare for that. That is a game, and I believe it's also at home, that you should kick the crap out of them, and then you should walk right into that Big Ten championship game for that rematch with Ohio State with all of the momentum on your side.
So to the point, again, I felt like a team that was exhausted. I felt like I saw a team that was exhausted. Mm-hmm. And for Oregon fans, I'm going to tell you, it's better to get out of there with a win, get a bye, go into the last game and be prepared. You need this week. I'm sure I didn't listen to Dan Lanning's press conference, but I know coach speak. I guarantee you he's happy that they just hit a bye week and they went unscathed here. Yeah. I mean, especially down the stretch. That's impressive, man. That's really impressive by Oregon that you're able to go on an 8-game stretch before bye week and do what you need to do. So good on them. Joe, for doing that.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.